Um. And she has since retired, so if you worked with her before, I am not what she used to be. And as I was taking over the department, I realized, it's more than GIS, it's more than just mapping. A lot of our responsibilities deal with actually doing statistical analysis, not just spatial analysis. Or, going out in the field and mapping things, and taking care of parcels. So I renamed it to the Mapping Data and Technology Department. Also helps simplify, not everybody knows what GIS is, so the public could better understand what our department could provide. So I'm Richard Crowley Jr. I am the Geographic Information Science and Technology Coordinator.
My name is Danny Thomas. I'm the GIS analyst here at NVCOG, and I have a background in forestry.
And I'm Tim Nolan. I'm the new data scientist. We're, like Rich says, we're trying to expand sort of the data capacities of the COG and really the resources that are available to you as municipalities and even to the state level. You'll hear more about that in the future. Great to meet you all.
And as I was talking about, our friends from Naugatuck, this week is Geography Awareness Week, and there's reason why I wanted to hold this Lunch and Learn this week. Yesterday, and if you're a GIS person, yesterday was GIS Day. It's a globally recognized day for people who make maps. So a little bit about the region and just understanding, some of the issues we have mapping. So the current map is Naugatuck Council of Government, all 19 towns. It's also known as the Naugatuck-Valley Regional Planning Agency by the state of Connecticut, which has recently, as of 2022, has become the county equivalent at the federal level. This is for two things. This matters when we're pulling information from the Census Bureau. We look at Naugatuck Valley rather than looking at New Haven County, Litchfield County, Hartford County, and Fairfield County. And the second thing is this opens up Connecticut to apply for federal grants that are open to counties. Before, because there was no county government, there was no way for anybody in the state to apply for a grant that had the geography level of county. Your municipality can apply it if it says local government, but if it says county, and you really want to apply, please talk to somebody at the COG. If it's transportation, environmental, or land use or housing based, we have those three main departments. The region also, this map is also the newly created Waterbury Shelton MSA area. Before, yet again, we were also split up, and now with the new county equivalency, we became the new MSA. In the federal level, the U.S. Office of Management and Budget names MSAs after the largest urban area. In this case, they took Waterbury and Shelton. So we had no control over the naming convention. And then finally, this geography is also the Naugatuck Valley Corridor Economic Development District. Didn't come up with that name either. Recently NVCOG has taken on doing all the reporting for that, and there will be more grant opportunities with this also. Same geography, but now in transportation, planning, federally designated MPOs, Metropolitan Planning Organization. The blue is the Central Naugatuck Valley MPO, which NVCOG does manage. And the orange is our part of the Greater Bridgeport and Valley MPO, which is NVCOG co-manages, but it's mostly held in by MetroCog based out of Bridgeport. Get a little bit more complicated is when it comes to emergency services. With Demis, we're split amongst 3 regions. And because it's a current topic, when it comes to housing and doing fair market rent areas, the region split up even more. So here's a brief agenda for today. We're just gonna cover the products we cover, which are either online or printable maps or data products. Projects that we have currently working on or hope to work on in the future. Other services that we provide, not just, the products that are out there. We'll have, is Alfredo coming?
Yeah, he should be here at 12:30. Is that good timing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Alfredo Herrera, who is the state of Connecticut's Geographic Information Officer, he'll be basically doing the same thing. He'll have a presentation. And then we'll have a discussion about the parcel and camera data improvement grant that the COG is currently holding, conducting, and the consultant on that is doing the Geosystems. They're online. They'll also do a brief presentation on the work they've completed thus far. And then we'll do questions, comments, and open up discussion on any of these topics.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. As Rich said, my name is Danny Thomas. I'm gonna go over some of our mapping products that we have available. Our regional viewer, our brand new open space inventory, our regional recreation guide, our agritourism guide, and our Vision Zero crash maps. All of these maps plus many more are gonna be available at the link below, which will be hyperlinked in the slides. So, starting off with our regional viewer, that's our most powerful tool that anyone can use to learn new things about our region. There's over 60 layers available in various categories. And recently we released a new public notifications tool to create mailing lists. So I'm gonna go over and take you into our regional viewer and to show you what exactly this is capable of.
We sharing full screen.
Yes. All right, wonderful. So this is our regional viewer webpage. You have our public notification tool, our aerial imagery swiper. And you can break it down based on subcategories here. Or you can just go into the main viewer. First, I'll show you our public notifications tool. It gives you a little brief directions on how to use it. And one of the great things about our public notifications tool is that it actually extends to the boundaries of our neighboring towns. So that you can create a mailing list for a project within a certain radius of a point, line, or polygon. So let's just say, for example, that I was a theme park somewhere in Bristol, Connecticut here. And I wanted to create a list of notifying my new neighbors of a brand new roller coaster that I'm going to be installing. I would go to create a new list here. And I say, I want to make it within a mile of the area. So I would say miles, I change units to miles. I change this to 1. And then I hit this little point button here. And the new roller coaster is going to go right here. All right. And it creates this little circle. I hit done. Over here, I would hit the export feature. You can choose how you want this information and the page options, which will line up with label maps. And you can also export it as a CSV. A quick hit, you can remove all the duplicates. You can see there's 13. So if I remove all the duplicates so that people will not get the notification twice, and hit export, it will soon export a PDF of all of our, as you can see right there, of all the names and addresses. Back in forestry, when I was working in forestry, I would have to do this sort of thing for timber harvest, and I'd make sure I'd notify the neighbors of timber harvest, and a tool like this would have made this a lot easier. The same thing, sort of thing, can be applied to construction projects or things like that, neighbors may have to be notified about. So that's the public notification tool. And then we'll dive right into our,
I'm guessing this is basically statewide.
no, it is just limited to NVCOG and the surrounding
Oh.
municipalities.
It's filtered, so it only includes the neighboring municipalities on the statewide parcel
Parcel,
layer.
yeah, you can remove also the right of ways too.
I just noticed, yeah,
Yeah,
thank you, actually.
Yeah. I mean, one other thing is, we wanna provide the tool for our region and, kind of let the other cogs maybe follow.
copy it, yeah, it's awesome,
Yeah.
I like it a lot, so. It's well, sort of. Construct.
Well, it's only, so Ashley is from,
Sorry,
the state of Connecticut's, GIS office. And I actually put in a request with them this year because the statewide parcel layer did not have a zip code layer before.
yeah,
So all the information coming from the other towns is from the statewide layer.
now I see when it went.
So this is our regional viewer, again, can be just clicked in by clicking go to viewer there. And it has all these different subcategories of information that you can use on this. If you zoom in far enough, you will be able to see the parcels. And a simple click of the parcel will tell you who owns it and the mailing address of the ownership, as well as parcel ID and the map block lot.
Physical address, not mailing.
Oh, that's the physical address,
Yeah.
excuse me. So that'll show you the physical address, and the owner, as well as parcel ID and map block lot. That comes from the CAMA data set that we have. Moving on to some infrastructure. If you were interested, we have a lot of different infrastructure here, roads and municipal service points is a very interesting one where you can see fire departments, hospitals, schools, et cetera, that are in the region. You have roads, and one of the layers I've been working on recently is where is it? Nope, excuse me, that's what I wanted to show you, was municipal service layers there. So we go to our transportation, this is what I wanted to show you. We have our road networks and but we have regional trails as well. Check our infrastructure there. Our regional trails will show you places to go hike or ride your bike. It's we pull up our legend here, you can see it's local or the state or one of the Blue Blades trails from the Connecticut Forest and Parks Association. That's kind of how we have that symbolized there. Another one, this is the project that I've been working on, is our NVCOG sidewalks. This is being updated currently as we speak. I've finished most of the towns except for Waterbury and Cheshire. Actively working on both of those and finishing up the inventory of the sidewalks there. So you can see this is broken down on the type of sidewalk by color and very useful tools to help determine where sidewalks is going to be. Eventually, we're going to work on this and do some gap analysis. I'll talk about that more in a little bit. Moving on to our demographic section. If we can scroll out here, we'll take a look at our environmental justice block groups. So for these EJ block groups, there are some determinations made on some statistical stats that say, all right, well, these areas need more work than others and require some more environmental justice work. So a lot of our state grants will give preference to areas that have environmental justice, have an environmental justice specification.
And just to add on, these are set by Department of Environmental Protection, Energy and Environmental.
And then one of my favorite parts of this Explorer is the demographic analysis. So each one of these dots are a census block. And as you census tract, excuse me. And as you can see, the larger the bubble, the more the population, so. And then when you click on a bubble, for example, let's click on this one in Oxford. You can see the total population, the elderly population, which is 65 and older, minority population, Hispanic, Latino, disability, poverty levels, total households. And then another really interesting fact is the renter occupied units or the total occupied units. So it's really interesting to see how some areas have, you know, less rented units while some areas have more rented units. You can play around with this all day, clicking around to different census tracts. So, and that actually brings me to our boundaries set we have here. So we can click into the census tracts here, which show exactly those dots and those sizes, but broken down, and you can see their exact boundaries. Something I find really cool about this is you can, if you know where you live, you can find out who your representative is, or you can find out what district you're in. So for the Connecticut House districts of the General Assembly, we have here, how these are all split up. I went to a presentation yesterday where they noted how Derby had 3 separate House districts available. We can also click into the Senate districts right here. You can see who your state senator would be based on the districts. And finally, the US congressional districts. We have a total of 4 here in the COG, 4 congressional districts represented here in the COG. And so you can see based on where you live, who or what district you are in, what you'd be voting for. Many other boundaries available there. I just don't have the time today to go through all of them. So water resources. Looking into that. One of the things I like about the water resources is the flood hazard areas from FEMA. This one has an extent limit on it, so you have to zoom in to be able to see it. But you can see the areas that have a flood hazard based on FEMA's data set. This will be good for things like determining flood insurance. I had applied myself for flood insurance years ago. Thankfully, we're not in a flood zone, so yeah, that's a great tool to be able to see find your house and determine if you're in a flood zone.
To find your house, there's a search bar down at the bottom of the map, so you can type your address and the map will zoom right to your house.
Right there. Type in 39 Leavenworth, that's where we are today.
49.
49. 49 Leavenworth Street, Waterbury. We'll zoom in right here and we'll see that we're out of the flood zone. Okay, so going on to land use. We have something that I'm gonna talk about a little bit more later, is our open space inventory. And you can see these are all the open space parcels that we have in the state. This is the recently created layer. And I have to talk a little bit more about that later on. And then another great one here is our zoning layer. This shows the general zoning map for the entire COG. These layers are not the most up to date, the zoning layers in specific, especially if a town has changed and hasn't notified us of the zoning, but this is the most recent data that we have. So if you are a town that has made updates to your zoning, please let us know and we'd be happy to update the zoning layer here. On to soil and wetlands, our CT deep wetlands layer is referenced here. Again, looks like you gotta zoom in a little bit. Check our water resources. And you can see the wetlands areas here. So if you were going to be doing a project in an area that has wetlands, you would want to make sure that you go see your town's Inland Wetlands Commission and make sure that gets approved. Our elevation layer offers some really cool things. It offers contours, which is a classic way of determining elevations, but one thing I really like to see is the shaded relief. You can take a zoom out here. Some of the red areas are our higher elevations, and then the gray and brown areas are your lower elevations. You can see our highest elevations come from Bethlehem and Woolkit here, but then our lowest elevations come down, especially towards Shelton. And you can really see Naugatuck Valley itself highlighted as this gray streak right here down the middle. And that is a great way to show really how steep some of these slopes are. I mean, this is the Naugatuck River and Route 8. And if you've ever driven down Route 8, you can see those big cliffs on either side. This really helps show that sort of thing. And finally, at the bottom here, we have aerial imagery. So we have a few different aerial images you can view. So if we zoom in here, I want to highlight one particular area that has had some work done to it, which is the Derby High School football field. So this is what it currently looks like, or looked like as of 2023. In 2019, there was a big remodel project done. And you can see that it was under construction there. And then going all the way back to 2012, you can see. Yeah.
To think about loading.
Yeah. You can see that this is what it used to look like. So this softball field was, this was the softball field, and what they did in 2023 was they cut back into this hillside and made it a combination baseball and softball field and made this a dedicated football field. Now, one of the tools I want to highlight is our measuring tool. And I'm going to highlight this on the old Derby baseball field, baseball combination football field. So we have our measuring tool. I'm going to zoom into home plate here. And you can measure both distance and area, but I'm just going to use this for distance. So I'm going to put a dot right here on home field. And if you're a baseball fan, you'll know that it is about 90 feet. Change it to feet here. It's about 90 feet to first base, so you can see that's fairly accurate. But if we travel down the left field line, across the asphalt that runs through center field, we have about 290 feet or so to the fence. We travel down the right field line, again, across the asphalt that runs through the field, we got about 300 feet to the right field. And if we go all the way out here, we have about 519 feet to right center field.
Good luck if you're left.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're a baseball fan, those are the polo grounds, I don't think have crazier dimensions than that. So we just clear out the measurements, but we go to our spring 2023 imagery and we go to our new field that Derby has, and we'll click our measurements here. We can see that it's much more uniform. 310 out the left and 340 to center. Much more of a hitter friendly park. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing, but that's just some of the information that our regional viewer can do, and I didn't even have time to get into a lot of the other pieces, including sharing maps and drawing and things like that. So back to some of our other products that we offer. I mentioned our open space inventory that we had. We have a specific special viewer for open space. And in this viewer, with the link at the bottom there, you can specifically see the ownership status, and you can symbolize by ownership status. That's what this map is. This map is symbolized by protection. The ownership. So is it owned by a water company? Is it owned by land trust and municipality or some other private owner, and its primary use function? So is it used for forestry? Is it used for conservation, recreation? All of those are determined, can be symbolized in the open space viewer. If you want to play around more with that, the link is at the bottom. Our regional recreation guide is a great place to locate sports facilities, hiking trails, and playgrounds. And as a new update coming soon, we're going to be separating out pickleball courts from tennis ball courts. So pickleball is one of the biggest expanding sports in the country. So we really wanted to emphasize that. This would be a great addition to your municipality's Parks and Rec website. If you do not have this already linked, we would love for you to link this to your Parks and Rec website. And then future updates are going to allow us to have a map that will zoom right to your town. So you can see that Derby right here is emphasized. So in the future, we're going to have a link, hopefully on the Derby website or whatever your town website is, that'll zoom right to that extent so that you can see all of the services, recreational services that your town has to offer. Farmers markets and agricultural resource viewer. So here we have all of our farms, our fairs, our cooperative service agriculture, CSAs outlined, farmers markets, farm stands, and Christmas tree farms outlined. You can click on each individual point to discover offerings, hours, and the website links. So it'll take you right to their website so you can find out more about who they are and what they do. And additionally, we have ready to print Christmas tree farm maps available for the region. I know I'm going to be going out probably next weekend and buying my Christmas tree. I hope you all will be doing the same and supporting our local Christmas tree farmers. And finally, we have the Envision Zero Crash Map. This helps you visualize crash locations and help decision makers implement safety improvements. You can see that right now I have the heat map listed there, and you can see how there's a bunch of hot spots in Waterbury and Derby and Bristol. So you can look at the crash map, see where those are happening, and that also updates daily via direct link to the Connecticut Crash Data Repository, which is a wonderful app in and of itself. Again, the link is at the bottom there. And with that, I pass it off to Tim here.
Thank you. Let me just get oriented with this. All right, good deal. Hi, folks. One more time, I'm Tim Nolan. The data scientist started about 2 months back here, and we're really trying to ramp up. We've got an amazing program, a GIS program. Richard and Danny have done just such an amazing job at making really entertaining and valuable content. So please do dig around on, especially on the main one, the regional view. Exactly. Thank you. My job, really, as I see it, is to expand the data capacity. Just like Richard alluded to, we talk a lot about demographics, we talk a lot about housing, land allocation, environmental planning. All of these fields have data at their core. And so the COG hiring me is sort of a signal to say, we care about data, we care about fact-based governance. And so my job is really to expand the capacity for the COG and really set the tone for what COGs we're able to do with the data and what services we provide. So a couple of those things coming up now. We've got the Naugatuck+Valley Demographic Explorer, which is sort of just a quick view of the regional viewer. It just pulls this main demographic info. We've got a data download page for ACS and Census Bureau data, so that's decennial census and ACS data, and an external resources pages to reach out or see data from all over the state, our different non-government collaborators like Data Haven, and state resources as well. So our data capacity is expanding. Please keep an eye on these pages and for more press releases specifically. So this is what the Demographic Explorer looks like. Again, it's going to put you in an ArcGIS experience that looks very similar to the regional viewer, but it's sort of this dashboard view that gives you all of the core, what we consider the core demographic stats for the Naugatuck Valley. You can look at the tract level, the municipality level, or the region level. And so our main indicators that this will produce and show you real quick, click on Waterbury. We have housing indicators, so that is the total number of households, the number of renter occupied units, the households, and then we sort of move into some more socioeconomic indicators reflecting sort of the population diversity, I will just very briefly aside say that this is more of a personal opinion, not necessarily a government opinion. Words like equity still matter to me, and I think that having access to data is very important, and I think that that's something we need to be thinking about as a government. Then we have, my point is, we don't shy away from talking about socioeconomic indicators because they are real, they are facts, okay? Last, we have environmental indicators. And so this is things like pollution. We obviously have the brownfields program. If you're not familiar, it's just generally contaminated plots of land. And there's sort of metrics we can use to view distances. Again, these are all sort of going to be sourced from American Community Survey, the Census Bureau, CT Department of Public Health, and I believe Data Haven had some.
No, Data Haven's EPA for the.
EPA, thank you, and EPA. All right. Then you can head over to the data downloads page, and you will see again, really that's going to be summary plots and data of the American Community Survey. Those are the sort of intercensal surveys where we're trying to get an understanding of how people actually live in the region. Whereas the core goal thrust of the census is to just get really population and core demographics. And so you can view both of those things and download them as CSVs from this website rather than calling the census API and trying to figure out how to do it from there. We've got all of the stuff for NVCOG already pulled for you. I will just say very quickly, this data downloads page is definitely going to be expanding. We have lots of new partnerships we're striking up right now. And it's just about sort of talking to the communications in terms of getting a publication timeline for those sorts of things. So check back every couple of weeks, see if I've got off my what. All right. Then we have the external resources page. So this is sort of other partners that I alluded to. So we've got state agencies like, CT Transit, what do we got? The Department of Energy, the Department of Transportation, federal agencies like FEMA and the Census Bureau. And then obviously, wouldn't be possible without the University of Connecticut, who does a lot of really good work to provide open resources for the public. UConn alum, go Huskies, and private, non-government organizations like CT Data and Data Haven. This will link you out to all of the different resources, and it just looks like that, as you see. Another great set is Richard has put together the GIS software training, so you can learn about Esri, learn about the basics of GIS. If you if you see this sort of stuff and you're like, I want to have more fun in playing around on GIS,
Also with the the end of life of ArcMap and, ArcPro, there's some tool links to help you with the transition.
Yeah, we do want to say we do stand on the shoulders of giants. Thank you to the lovely people at Esri for making a lot of our work possible. Well, we pay them a lot of money to make it possible. Okay, so those are sort of the products that we currently have, and like I alluded to, we are currently building out our data capacity. And the number one thing that I got put on my desk when I walked in was, Tim, we need accurate population projections for the entire state of Connecticut through the year 2060. Good luck. So I've spent the past 2 months doing a lot of research on how this works and how populations grow and change over time, and what are the sort of influential factors. Because one might sit there and think, okay, let's do a thought experiment as a group here. What are the sort of factors, don't look up at the board, no cheating, that you could think of that would contribute to a town's population growth or loss? Does anyone wanna shout out some thoughts? Desro, what comes to your mind? First thing.
Housing, but also.
Housing, amazing. Well, does anyone have like a really salient thing? Yeah, housing is perfect, exactly. So basically, you can think of this problem as a multi-part, multifaceted problem. And so we want to be able to project populations, right? That's the core output that we want to know, at least, and we'll talk about the others in a second. But in order to do that, you need to understand the area that you're analyzing and the components that go into things. In other words, no two towns are alike in how they grow. Yes, there's trends, there's averages, but to get specific, sort of a data on how Oxford is going to grow relative to Waterbury or Bristol, those things will be different based on the makeup of the towns, of the municipalities themselves. So we have to expand, in order to get a better model, we have to expand our scope. And so that means including things like the number of households, and by number of households, I specifically mean the number of family units, okay? We need to be looking at the housing, so that's the demand for housing, the number of households, the number of family units, and then you have the actual physical housing stock, which is the supply, right? So you have a supply and demand side for housing, you have a supply and demand side as well for the economics. And so what I mean is, there's also jobs, right? My family is from West Virginia. Lots of the population has left West Virginia. Why have lots of the population left West Virginia? Because the jobs left West Virginia. And so you need to have a track of how the jobs are going to flow in Connecticut for the next 40 years to get a good idea of how the population is going to grow, right? So you can start to think of how these things are interconnected. And so we want to do this to the census tract level. And so that requires fusion of tons of data sets. So you can think of the sort of the main demographics that you're talking about. So the Census Bureau, American Community Survey and Decennial Census, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Bureau of Economic Analysis, the CDC, for what you can trust them, the HUD, and then state departments such as CT Eco, CT Department of Public Health, and the Connecticut Zoning Atlas, which I believe is a Yukon product. Now, why does this matter? Well, without accurate forecasts and models of how a population is going to grow and how towns are going to change, municipalities are going to change, Connecticut is at risk for housing shortages, or labor gaps, and misaligned infrastructure spending, right? My core thesis whenever I come into a room is, what does the data say? And then we go from there, okay? Right? Not the other way around. Not trying to manipulate the data in any way. And so we want to have an accurate model and plan accordingly. And so we want a consistent tract level viewer, so planners and policymakers across the state can coordinate effectively to use their resources best as possible, right? That's what matters, no matter where you're coming from. And the goal is to have this available to all of the towns, 169 towns in Connecticut, not just limited to NVCOG. Oh, I'm trying to, there we go. So I just wanted to share a brief quote. And so how does that look, Tim? How do all these pieces come together? And this morning I spent the day frantically trying to put all of this together into a diagram so you can get an idea of how all of these pieces work. And sort of what I just want to point out, broad strokes, all the things in blue, light blue, are inputs to the model. So those are, you can think of those as like a CSV file of some sort, or CSV files, maybe it's over time, history, all right? And all of these things are combining and fusing and feeding back into the different systems such that we can maintain internal consistencies between, say, the number of houses and the number of people. If the model starts to project more people than family units than houses in a town, then we know something has to be corrected, that sort of thing. So, and then in the light green, you have all of our outputs, which are the important things. And so out, we're gonna have, in order, we're gonna have the annual population by age, sex, race, so by sort of demographic breakdowns as well. Again, all of this comes with uncertainty, but we'll have the projections. Then we'll have the labor force output, so how many jobs there are at a given time, and some sector divisions, so it'll be remote jobs and service industry jobs, and I'm forgetting what the one last category is, but regardless, some breakdown of the specific jobs, then and job seekers. And the last important part is migration and migratory patterns. And there's two things we have to model there. There's national migration and international migration. And obviously these things, are hot button issues at the moment. And so we have to think really carefully about, okay, so what are the implications of where we're at as a country right now? Where are we going? And so that's what I'm doing on a day-to-day. That's what I'm thinking about on a day-to-day, as objective as possible. Okay. And I just love this quote that sort of gets at, I sat down and I was like, I think this will take me, 3 days, I told Richard. And I was humbled rather quickly. And so I like this quote: for every subtle and complicated question, there's a perfectly simple and straightforward answer, which is wrong. So my job is to try and figure out how do we get that less straightforward answer, which is less wrong. That's what data science is really about. I keep typing, going to my laptop. All right. Other than that, moving forward, I'm going to be working pretty strongly with transportation planning, especially. Data is, and I'm overgeneralizing here, but I think that there's lots of opportunities for data in the transportation planning world, that we have our systems, and we have our state level metrics that CONDOT requests, and we sort of just do that. But we want to sort of expand our capacity, see what other regions who are really thinking outside the box are doing with data, to help with things like congestion, which is the number one thing. So the congestion management process will be updated, right? So I need someone to help me with describing what the congestion management process is in general, but our COG congestion management process would be updating to use, in addition to the standard metrics that we've been using, include real-time and historical data of traffic monitoring systems, using systems like RIDIS and losing track of the other names at the moment, but and NRIX, thank you. And what we want to do is be able to have key metrics that are live updating, whether it's some dashboard or again, sort of similar to the regional viewer, somewhere where you can view these things. And so things that are important to us are the travel time index, the volume to capacity ratio, and the planning time index, which I need to look into. So the goal again is to sort of increase the knowledge base of our traffic systems, and we all spend time on the roads, and we all see fellow drivers maybe not following the rules and whatnot, and the goal is to try and capture sort of the trends in a way that you can't necessarily on one trip I live in West Hartford, from one trip on 84 from West Hartford to Waterbury.
And if I may, it's more of our transportation department is also grown and they want to take on the responsibility of creating our own metrics and not relying on the State Department of Transportation. And so, the population projections also adds into doing this. And then we would be the first MPO in the state, and I think in the Northeast to do our own metrics. And then start having the board apply policy to help with congestion in the region.
That to make it more accurate, micro level, or?
Yeah, so to
Yes.
have more a time specific, and geographic specific, data. In other words, having a more, like a less lagging system. And so you can see sort of things in real time, so to speak. And. Yeah,
And also
and-
planning for the future to make
Right.
sure, adding appropriate third lane where necessary.
And to coordinate between the various towns throughout.
Precisely, exactly. Yeah, roads are shared resources, and so, it makes natural sense that. If Route 8 folks wanna come together to speak to us as a cog, that's sort of the way we want things to happen. That's everything from me. If you're interested in hearing more about data, please take one of my business cards. Yeah, I'm looking forward to really, taking the data to the next level with the cog. Thank you.
So, we got some, upcoming projects that I want everyone to be aware of. One of the big one that's close to my heart is the Connecticut Forester here is our tree canopy assessment. That's going to be, we're working with the University of Vermont Spatial Analysis Laboratory. And we're working on some data to analyze our tree canopy in the region. Once we get the data from the University of Vermont, we're gonna be working on some public engagement with our local tree wardens and other interested parties in order to show where we can have more planting, because trees have a correlation with a lot of positive things, lower asthma rates, better air quality and lower temperatures, called the urban heat island effect, lower temperatures in areas that have trees. So we wanna focus, once we get the data, we wanna focus on areas that are, have lower values, for tree canopy coverage, and, focus on those areas to increase the planting in those areas. Another one we're working on is the pedestrian network and walkability analysis. I talked to you a little bit about this when I was discussing the regional viewer, as mapping out our sidewalks as well as our crosswalks and sidewalk ramps and our multi-use trails, to determine the walkability of our region. I'm working on digitizing those and identifying gaps in the sidewalks, for sidewalk expansion, and then we're also gonna ultimately do a walkability analysis, and look at access to various areas, including but not limited to open space areas. So that, Rich.
I have two topics, Vision Zero Hub Space. It's basically expanding upon the crash map we saw before. It will have emphasis areas, such as fatalities, non-motorists, which includes pedestrians, bicyclists. Crashes that happen at intersection and crashes that, have determined to be roadway, departures. These emphasis areas were determined by our transportation department. It's just, Hub Space is a GIS, tool. It basically looks like a website and it'll basically have a nice clean dashboard for statistics. And then another long-term project is creating a land-based classification system for the region. It's almost like land use, it's not land cover. So the image on the screen right now has our old 2017 land use on it. Basically, orange is residential, red is it's commercial. our land-based classification system will help break up these parcels, so the parking will be separated out from the parcel. So that helps with knowing impervious surface with stormwater. There's a drive-through restaurant that will help with traffic planning. Gas stations separate out, that'll help for environmental planning. So we'll be working on the system and eventually be contacting municipal planning staff and any other staff come springtime to work out any details. We would, we don't want to just come up with a system that no one agrees on. We want regional input. And then we'll start work once the 2026 flight imagery comes out, which Alfredo will speak about shortly. Services, I'll just quickly, the main one is with trails. We help with trail mapping. We offer a mobile app, so you go out, hike the trail, and it'll upload to our online cloud. Same with points of interest. And both of those things we can send to CT Trail Finder, the state trail app, if you like. And then we also create trailhead maps if you need. We also do MS4 mapping. We'll again set up a mobile app for you. Tom in the room, he's working with other COGs to come up with a schema to follow new state regulations. And then like other things are, if you're working on a grant, we'll help you with maps or data. Same with your POCDs. And then please send us your open space information once you know about it. And zoning maps, I believe each town is required to have an official zoning map on their websites. So if you don't have that and you need any updates, please contact us. We'll make them out for you. Potential future services. These are just ideas I've seen at conferences and meetings. So if you see anything you like, let's talk. And now I'll hand it over to our state geographic information officer, Alfredo. How would you like to share your slides?
What are my options? I need a USB-C if I need to move it physically.
Or can you just join the Zoom?
I can do that.
Okay. No.
We're supposed to do. Bear with me here, so I have a link.
Any questions, comments, concerns while we wait? For
Yeah,
Alfredo to get set up?
any questions from anybody online during this transition period?
Yeah, so how can the towns help participate in the process by providing
Yeah,
data and other layers of information that we might have? If we do that, how can you improve on that?
So at the current moment, the only thing towns have to send to the COGS are your parcel and CAMA databases every May. Which is a state requirement. So if you wanna if you have GIS stuff in your town already creating the information for it, you probably don't need to rely on it as much. But most of our towns do not. So if you want maps, you want spatial data and spatial analysis, please, contact us, we'll work with you. We could host the data for you. Every town has a municipal viewer, so if there's anything that was in our regional viewer you want in yours. A lot of the information is hosted by the state already, or if we are hosting it, we could send it over to your host, parcel host. For you. So.
Okay, well, thank you.
and I would just step in and say with respect to data specifically, number one is if you have anything bespoke or you have a great idea in your head of, I've got this, XYZ, it can be whatever in the town, and I've got these numbers, how can we work together with the COG?
I'll give you an example.
Yeah, please.
So the open space map that we have.
Yeah.
So in from the assessing world, it's open space has a different meaning than it might have for you.
Right.
So, but we have the capability of identifying which properties you consider to be open space, so that when we give you the camera layer every year, that goes with it, because that does change a little bit from year to year.
Well, there's also PA 490, which is, so in our open space inventory, we have identified parcels with PA 490 protection.
Right.
But because it is temporary, we did not include it in our inventory. But we do have it marked. We did get lists from all of our accountants during the inventory process.
Yeah, but I mean, we have a lot of stuff that you're considering open space, but we don't have it categorized that way, and so. Which should not be a huge undertaking to.
Yeah, I mean, we have the Excel files with the entire essentially database of the whole entire cog. So I mean, we can absolutely talk.
Yeah, it's just one small example.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, even with the land use, that's also a thing. You got assessors, you classify it by the state regulations, which we're taking into effect. We're cross-referencing your land use code with what we're doing, but still we want to work the like the whole time.
Yes, and just one more thing, specifically on the open space inventory, we do have a PDF somewhere on the website which goes through our classification system.
It's the whole report.
Oh, yeah, right.
And you could access it.
Okay, the open space inventory report, and just download the whole PDF, and you'll find what you need in that. Yeah.
Great, Alfredo, I think we're all set for you.
Alright. So we're gonna do a quick overview of the data and the data products and services. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just very quickly, can everyone online hear Alfredo from there?
There should be a.
Yeah, okay, all right, we're good, sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Making sure. Alright, so we're gonna do a quick overview of kind of like the products and services and, you know, and some of the projects that we're working on as well as some of the data that we make available. We're handing out some kind of 1 and 2 pagers that we've developed actually for yesterday, but they're very useful for now, that kind of give a really good overviews by different topics of the stuff that we're working on. So bear with me here a second. And okay, so who are we? I am Alfredo Herrera, and with me I have Ashley Benitez, who's one of our GIS coordinators. We're gonna kind of take turns on this presentation, going through all of the various things that we work on at the GIS office. And so first and foremost, who are we? Connecticut GIS office is located in the Office of Policy and Management within the Data and Policy Analytics unit. Actually, not unit, division. I'm sorry, that's wrong. So we were created in 2021 and actually started working in 2022 when I got hired. So our office coordinates and collaborates with basically everyone. You know, we work with Richard a lot, we work with various municipalities a lot, we work with the feds, we work with outside vendors, CT Data, Data Haven, we talk to all of them. So, you know, from that kind of perspective, we have a fairly wide reach and we have a fairly large mandate.
Portal.
So you know, we get up to a lot. So here's kind of like a summary of some of like the key highlights of what we do. So we do a lot of coordination, we do data access by managing the open data, or rather the geodata portal. The open data portal for the state is also housed within our larger division, so we work very closely with them. So in fact, all of the data that we provide on the geodata portal is also available on the open data portal as a pass-through. So no matter which one you are looking for on in terms of like the GIS data, there's no wrong door. You're gonna find it in one of those 2 places. One of the other interesting bits about the geodata portal is that we federate from a lot of different other organizations throughout the state. Basically anyone that provides statewide data in a GIS format. So that includes CONDOT, that includes public health, that includes State Historic Preservation Office, that includes CT Deep, and also CT Eco. All of their services, in particular, all of their raster services, which is kind of what they're kind of focusing on now, is all federated through the geodata portal. So that is the place to find it. We also do a lot of interagency support, outreach and training, which is what we're doing right now. We also administer and acquire and coordinate orthoimagery and LiDAR. So that wonderful LiDAR that Danny over there was showing earlier, that is presumably the 2023 LiDAR data set. And once again, we purchased that in 2023. There is another version of that data set coming in 2026. And the resolution on that is frankly wild. Our LiDAR data set is literally the best in the nation right now. It is statewide at a density and resolution that nobody else has done. So we also offer standards and guidance. We do publishing guidance. We're working on address kind of for administrative data. Guidance on how to enter and maintain addresses for administrative data. That's what I meant to say. We are also working on accessibility guidance for mapping specifically. So we've been producing what is turning out to be a very large document in that regard. We're also have been working on for a long time parcel drafting guidelines, so that people that like the surveyors create those the survey maps, and then the GIS people have to kind of interpret those maps in order to digitize them. And so we're our goal is to kind of offer a consistent way to interpret those and kind of limit the realm of possibilities so that we end up with more consistent and accurate data over time. So, this is kind of our attempt to really kind of get everybody to kind of converge on like, what does it mean to digitize a parcel within Connecticut? And the more time that passes, the better our data sets will be and the less gaps and overlaps that we're going to have, especially between towns. Because one of the jokes I always make is that, Connecticut is an archipelago of 169 municipalities. So we're trying to implement guidance and kind of standards that go a long way to kind of mitigate some of the negative outcomes that can have in terms of data. So we also do a lot of data processing. We aggregate data like the parcel data that Richard was mentioning earlier. We're also going to be capturing addresses and culverts and bridges. That's a recent state mandate that passed this year in the legislative session. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then we also produce broadband maps, both availability and adoption, so subscriptions. So we produce those every December. We have been since 2022. And we collect that data twice a year. So we actually update them every 6 months in the summer and then again in December to make sure. And we do a lot of research and kind of making sure we do analyses. So like, for example, Office of Consumer Counsel was asking us a lot of questions because they were doing the interrogatories for the Cox and Charter merger. So, they were like, well, what do we need to know about the data? What is it doing? Like, what effects would these have? So, Ashley here had to really dig into all of that data that comes directly from the internet service providers to kind of parse out, okay, what does it all mean? And so that's kind of a lot of what we do. And that's kind of really underlined here by our mission and our vision statements. This is kind of us drawing the line in the sand of like, this is who we want to be and this is what we are here to do. And then the goals below there are actually from our strategic plan that we published last year. So those are our 5 goals that we live by. So everything that we do in the GIS office is somehow funneled and filtered through one of those goals. And, if it doesn't fit into one of those and it's still a priority, then, that's one of those things we have to maybe figure out where it does fit and make it work and maybe adjust the goals so that they do. But if it doesn't, then, it's not a priority and we get to it when we get to it. So GIS office, there are 5 of us. We recently had a departure in one of our key coordinator positions. We're close to, getting that backfilled now. So we'll be back up to full capacity. But I have Ashley here with me. She's our other coordinator. She's in charge of the kind of location information, if you will. So addresses, parcels, broadband data, like anything that's like, where is it? That's really kind of the portfolio that Ashley focuses on. The other coordinator focuses a lot on imagery, elevation, and hydrography. But then that's kind of like where the distinction really ends, because then they just do a lot of support and outreach and training and just like all of the other things together, and we do it all as a unit. And then our wonderful analysts, Leah and Sarah, do excellent work. As you look at the one pagers here, this is the collection of all of our work, and you kind of see what we all get up to. So specifically, what do we do this year? First and foremost, we updated our strategic plan. We kind of, in our first year, since we published the plan, the first thing we did is like, well, how did we do? So turns out we didn't do too bad. I think we gave ourselves a B plus. And when we self-evaluated, funnily enough, when we initially self-evaluated, we gave ourselves a C minus, and then we got a couple of projects finished in the time it took that initial evaluation and when we finished writing the plan, so we kind of upgraded the our score accordingly. But this is all published on our website. You can go read through it if you like. It really just kind of says, you know, here's what we're here to do, here's how we're making adjustments, here's what we have been instructed is important, here's what we feel is important, and that's just generally how we like to proceed with how we do our work at the GIS office. Other thing that I'm gonna do before I really get into the meat and potatoes of everything that we're gonna be talking about is we do have a ongoing webinar series with Yukon Clear, where we cover a lot of the topics. All of them get recorded, so if you go over to their webinar series and you see any previous recordings, you will see all of the materials. The two upcoming ones for this year are one on the 3D hydrography program from USGS. We will actually have USGS talking on that call, as will I, and we'll kind of cover, like the national scale of things. This is like the third part of a series that we have been doing on water. So the first one was, what does the state do with water? What are the data sets that we use? How do we process it? How do we use it? The second one was our colleagues over at NVCOG talking about their stormwater network work that they had been doing. And then Ashley also covering some of the state work that we've been doing that intersects with that, especially as it pertains to the Public Act 2533 and the bridge and culvert collection. So there's all of that. And then in December 11th, we're doing a public kickoff meeting for the 2026 imagery and LiDAR collection. So that is all of the imagery that we're getting again that we got in 2023. We're getting all of that again in 2026. One of the unique things about that particular flight is that unlike a lot of like iterative flights over time, the only variable this time is really some minor adjustments in the flight paths. So this creates a really unique opportunity for change detection, because not only are you using the same vendor, the same specifications, the same sensors and aircraft, like I said, the only variance is like some for this new flight, they're going to fly a little bit lower and a little bit faster, just so that they can kind of get more detail in some areas as making adjustments from last time. But this really represents a really big opportunity from a data perspective to truly see the change in the landscape. And this is once again, this hasn't been done anywhere at any scale. And then, so here's where we get into the interesting stuff. So we have currently a housing data hub. It has this dashboard you see here. It is all done down to the municipal level. We haven't dug further yet, keyword being yet, because as you may or may not know, the special session of the House just passed HB 8002. And it specifically names the GIS office in providing a tool to the towns and COGs to help them determine where there are their developable lands. So in my interpretation of that mandate is the tool is going to be the collection of data and maybe a few tools that allow you to mix and match that data. We're still working out what it all means, because this literally just passed this earlier last week. The idea is to kind of take what we've already built for the housing data hub, which is really a mix of state agency data, ACS data, and commercial data. We actually use realtor.com data in that dashboard as well, and kind of get below the town level. And our aim is to get all the way down to the census block level. If not the parcel level in some instances, because we get the parcel data from you all. That's one of the things that we have access to, and that is a really rich data set of and in a lot of information that we can pull from. And as we go through and improve that data, it's going to become even more effective at being able to make these determinations and make these assumptions about these things. We're also leveraging things like the elevation data to kind of come up with say steep slopes throughout the state. We asked Esri to calculate it. They had a bit of trouble with it. Because as you can imagine, when they tried to run it, they ended up with like 200 million plus polygons. They resampled the DEM to like 10 feet. And they did it again. It's still 26 million, but I think we're going to ask them to do the full 200 because the 10 foot is just too coarse when we looked at it up close. It just isn't quite good enough. So we're going to have some conversations with them to see how we actually get that done. But I mean, when you look at it, it just really straight up requires high performance computing clusters to crunch all of those numbers. So that's kind of where we're at on the housing. There will be much more to come on that subject as we develop the plans on what the data sets are going to be available. We are going to leverage ACS data. We are going to leverage things like, CT data, and the services that they provide, state agency data and the data sets that they provide. The parcel data is going to be really important. And then the actual land data, whether it's hydrography, flood zones, and all of that kind of stuff is going to be really, really important. So we've been really starting to kind of think about what the universe of this is and how we can kind of provide useful tools. So once again, if you have thoughts and feelings and care about this, please reach out. We want to hear it and make sure that we make the best tool possible. So I'll cover some of the imagery and LiDAR stuff that we're doing here. So all of the data from 2023 has been delivered from the vendors. Dewberry Engineers Inc. was the vendor that actually collected the data, but we also had them secure data from Ecovia, which is impervious cover data. We had LiDAR-derived 2D buildings. We have 3D buildings. We have 1 foot contours statewide, which are published in 2 different formats. One of them is a vector tile, which is basically like an image so that you can use it in the background of your maps. But we also made a version that is a hosted feature class. So that means there is a queryable, filterable version of the 1 foot contours that you can analyze against and pull it out into whatever you want. So you can just use our service and pre-filter it and you're done. So those are some of the things that we're trying to do there. So as you can see the images here, we have the 3D buildings, that's actually here in Waterbury. And interestingly as well, as you can see from the imagery there, we asked for all of the urban areas to be adjusted so that they are exactly top down. I'm not sure what happened here.
Is it?
No, I guess.
Sure.
Okay. Sharing again. Woo, okay, back. And then incidentally, we do also have from 2023 leaf on imagery. It's not as high resolution as the stuff we get, but it is produced by the US Department of Agriculture. They fly it every couple of years, regardless of whatever we do. So the 2023 data set is about 60 centimeters per pixel. And then they flew it again this year. And that one, the good news there is that they actually increased the resolution. So it's 30 centimeters per pixel. So they basically doubled it. It's about 6 inches on the ground. Is what the resolution there is, which is great for us because if you're at like 1 foot per pixel, you're not going to see a whole heck of a lot. But it is useful to be able to see like the trees with all of the foliage. And that can be kind of a really important metric for like tree canopy exercises and when you're doing some of the forestry work. So yesterday, Dewberry was at GIS Day talking about that, but in this case, they will be doing a webinar on the 11th, so you can catch that what they have to say there. It'll be largely the same message. We also, like I said, we have impervious cover. We have so one of the nice things about this is it's 12 different categories of impervious cover, and it distinguishes between regular pavement, driveways, parking lots, and all of those things. It is a really, really rich data set. It is not bad, I would say. It is it's not quite hand drawn by like someone with a lot of experience, but for being AI produced, it is very excellent. Well, the QA/QC is complete. We've given a report back to Dewberry with a couple of minor fixes that they need, not Dewberry, Ecopia, that they need to make. So they're going to make those changes, give us those changes back, and then we'll be able to get those into the publication queue. We've already given a copy to Richard, an advanced copy. So, if and when any of those changes that Ecopia makes are affecting any NVCOG or anywhere else, we'll provide that data back to you guys. So like I said, we're talking about the contours. Contours feature service has 20 million plus features in it. Nice thing about this one is, once again, it is filterable by town and by COG. So you can say, select where it equals NVCOG, and it will show you just NVCOG. It is already kind of prepared for that. And like I said, as we are working on the steep slopes layer, it will have the same functionality. You will be able to just say, select where COG equals NVCOG, and then that is all you will see. So related to the elevation and hydrography data, the elevation data is the hydrography data. So the current streams and water courses that Deep hosts is basically based off of what's called the National Hydrography Data Set, and that is now defunct. It is no longer edited, and it is also wildly inaccurate because it was digitized at 1 to 24,000 scale from like maps in the 1960s. And it's been updated here and there over time, but as far as I know, Connecticut hasn't updated that data for our state in the last 20 to 30 years. So to that point, because we have all of this wonderful new LiDAR data, we put in two kind of partnership request with USGS to kind of split the cost of doing this data development work. So in one, we are doing every HUC that is exclusively inside of Connecticut, and we are going to have Dewberry do that one. And then secondarily, me and the guy from Rhode Island decided to kind of rope in everybody else in New England and do a joint application to do a bunch of hydrologic units that cross state boundaries, because the HUCs don't care and USGS wants to have the entire HUC calculated. So how do you split the cost unless the two states agree? So Garth and I from Rhode Island started talking to Cy in Massachusetts, and then we reached out to Adam in Vermont, and then we reached out to Jay in Maine, and then we miraculously found someone in New Hampshire, and then we talked to New York as well. So last year we tried it because of the federal craziness. They just kind of like ran out of time to do the project within that, or approve the project within that fiscal year, so we were denied. But we were also encouraged to try again. So last time, New Hampshire said very predictably, don't touch me. But for 2026, they were like, all right, fine, you can do stuff in our boundaries. So while New York and New Hampshire did not actively participate in our DCA, they are accepting that we do that work. So why does that matter? Where that matters is the culvert collection, because we need to collect every culvert and bridge in the state. That sounds like a really tall order. So our idea is we are going to leverage the development of that data to find the stuff where we don't know where it is. We don't already know where it is. So we're going to collect all of the culverts and bridges that we already have, ask them to kind of do their analysis, identify those places where they think they might be one, and then ask you all to help us find it. And then addresses, we're trying to build a master address data set for the entire state. That's more comprehensive than the E911 stuff. There's a lot of different activities going on in this realm. Secretary of State's office is really kind of trying to do a lot of work here. And developing, they're gonna be really good validation because they're getting every registrar of voter in every town to validate their addresses every year. So that's gonna be a really big important thing. So in combination with being able to collect it in the towns, we're gonna aggregate it all, and then we're going to basically conflate it from all of these various sources. And one of the important things that we're going to do is we're going to give it back to the Census Bureau and make sure that no one in Connecticut gets undercounted. Because as we all know, urban areas are hard to count because it's hard to know where everything is. So if we give the Census Bureau the most complete look at addresses in the state, there's a lower chance that we'll get undercounted. And that means, that means money, that means representation, that means a whole lot of things, and which is why we're so keen to do this. So you will hear more of this, especially as it approaches 2027. So once again, we will be reaching out for this and asking help. So I'm just gonna pop forward because we gotta go quick. 2025 parcels are up and out. We've collected from pretty much everyone. I think you guys had 100% coverall and your guys' data is looking pretty good. So, no complaints. We use the submission portal. We're going to make adjustments, make it a little bit easier on the COGs and the towns to submit. So still, that's a work in progress and there's a lot to do there. And then we have the grants. This is something that we had access to some money. We provided that money to the COGs so that they can help us improve the quality of the data. We were lucky enough to have a bunch of money from the ARPA allocation that we got, and we were able to distribute it to the COGs. And as you can see here, here's kind of like the prioritization scheme that we kind of put on that, and these are the targets of what we're looking to improve. And I believe that's it for us.
Thank you, Alfredo. Can you switch back to ours?
Yeah.
We'll save questions for the end. Just going to hit on, since Alfredo brought up the parcel and, can you go backwards? The parcel and CAMA data improvement grant. So the GIS office gave us match rates that we had to satisfy to get over the 98% threshold to make sure that your parcels, parcel and CAMA databases matched. So, and if you had a parcel polygon in your map, there should be a CAMA record in the database for it, and then be able to talk to each other, and then vice versa. If there's a CAMA record, there should be a polygon representing that record. So COGs received this, all 9 COGs received this money. NVCOG is currently contracted with New England Geosystems. The 15 towns that were below the 98% threshold are all with New England Geo, so it's working with your consultant who already works on with your parcels. And they will now give a short, quick presentation on their current work. And sorry for the long meeting.
Understood. If you need to excuse yourself at this point, we appreciate you being here.
Or if you need a coffee, let me know.
Yeah. Actually.
All right, how's it going, everybody? We'll just get started here. Share my screen. right.
We see it. It doesn't matter, it's done. There you go.
All right, sweet. All right, so yeah, hi, my name is John McFarland. Most people call me Jake. Just been here for about 3 years at New England Geosystems in Brantford. And I'm just going to present to you on the project you just briefly mentioned, the OPM grant project, focusing on improving parcel and CAMA data integration. All right, so yeah, not to repeat too much, just a very quick overview of the grant. It was funded through the OPM GIS office, which is self-funded through ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act. This project is running through December 31st, 2026, so end of next year, with the goal of improving the accuracy, completeness, and integration of both CAMA and parcel data across Connecticut's municipalities. So the prioritization in order of the tasks, number one is recency. So towns that just have not had any sort of updates over the last couple of years, getting those brought up. Number two, CAMA to parcel mismatches. So focusing on towns primarily that are under 98% match rate for CAMA accounts linked to parcels. Number three is the other way around. So parcels that do not have CAMA accounts linked to them, with the goal of focusing on towns under 99% accuracy for those. And number four, the geometric quality, so basically drafting. So our involvement, we responded to the RFQ and we're added to the list of approved vendors. We wrote statements of works for all the COGs and the towns that we are working with. And these included budgets, mismatch rates, recency dates, drafting conditions, and received allocations from 53 towns across different task categories. So this has been the primary focus of my work for basically the entire time I've been working here, is the resolving mismatches, specifically like the CAMA to parcels and parcel to CAMAs. So early on, we determined pretty quickly that a big focus for us needed to be, we call them parcel multis. I'm not sure if that's a widespread term used, but basically CAMA accounts that are all linked, multiple CAMA accounts linked to a single parcel. So, you know, condos, trailer parks, things like that. So resolving those, we determined to be very critical to resolving these mismatches and getting the match rate up. So yeah, we basically started we started as a first round of looking through the mismatches, focusing on only parcel multis like condos and trailer parks. And upon doing so, we were actually successful in getting a large proportion of towns above the required percentage, or the focus percentage of 98% for CAMA to parcel mismatches. And so after those were conducted, we're doing a second round, essentially focusing on mismatches that are not involving parcel multis. So yeah, the goal for there is to get those up to 100% if possible. And so any mismatches that we are unable to resolve on our end, we're putting a list together, calling them mismatch documents, and we're reaching out to town assessors with those documents, listing them basically all what we think the resolution could possibly be, seeing if we can get help from the assessors. If there's any assessors in here, some of you may have already received these mismatch documents. And if you haven't, then you will hopefully be receiving them relatively soon. But yeah, the goal is just to get the that mismatch rate as close to 100% as possible for both CAMA to parcels and parcels to CAMA. All right, this part I haven't been doing too much work yet on, but essentially we're just going to be reviewing the drafting for a lot of the parcels. So there's kind of two sections to the drafting. One is correcting the acreage, so like discrepancies in acreage, getting them as close to possible the GIS acreage of the parcel to the CAMA acreage. And then there's also buildings intersecting parcel arcs, like the boundaries of parcels. That's the focus that we want to, that's something we're working on fixing. So we created scripts for both of these issues, which will point out to us essentially parcels that in terms of acreage, either are off by 20%, the GIS off by 20% or more from the CAMA acreage, or there's a difference of 1 acre or more. And a lot of parcels have issues in both of these topics. And then we also made a script basically just looking at the 2023 buildings and seeing where they intersect our parcel arcs. And so, yeah, the goal is going to be focusing on resolving those as well. So, yeah, very, very short and sweet presentation, but appreciate you guys listening to the work I've been doing. And feel free to throw any questions if there are any. But thank you.
Thanks, Jake. And I believe that will end this session. To anybody in person or online, I now open it up for questions. But before I do take the first question, I will say, you know, the mapping data technology, what we call MDT, we're here to help you. If you have any mapping data project or problem, please let us know. We'll help the best we can. If it requires, you know, there is a list of additional services. Some of those services might require additional funding. But a lot of the work we do is already included in the municipal dues that you guys provide to the COG. Again, I'll open up for questions. Thank you.
I have one question.
Sure.
So for the impervious surface, map, is that gonna be available in a few months or in the middle of next year?
Oh, Rich, copy of it, right?
Rich had, okay,
Yeah, but mine was just to send off for the tree canopy work.
okay.
I didn't even look at it. I downloaded it and sent it back off to the consultant.
Yeah, but presumably you have a copy of it.
Yes, I do have a copy.
Yeah, like, I would say around the beginning of the year is when we'll actually be really kind of looking heavily into publishing the data.
Okay.
Like I said, Ecopia has to make a few changes and, you know, there'll be, I don't wanna say negotiations, but, you know, we'll have to talk through what it is that they'll have to do. And then they have to go do it. They usually work pretty quickly. The benefit of kind of running a bunch of AI models is they do their stuff without asking questions. So it's a matter of getting it back, seeing what change, if it's good enough, and then, you know, but I think realistically, like, we're expecting by the end of the year, we should have both following version.
Yeah, I just plan on using it for M4 mapping, so.
You and everybody else.
Yeah.
That is.
I don't wanna start it until I have that.
Yeah, so I don't foresee it changing too much, and if it does, you won't really see huge differences in any one place. I would say that, like, probably like the biggest thing that it kind of had trouble with was railroads, railroad tracks themselves. It had trouble kind of identifying the railroad tracks for some weird reason, so apart from that, most of the other categories would be really accurate.
Cool, thank you.
If you're online, feel free to unmute to ask your question, or you can put it in the chat. If there are no questions, there were some handouts. We will digitize them and send them out to a
They're
follow-up
already,
email.
they're on the OPM GIS office website.
We'll send them in a follow-up email to links to the OPM website. And we had some flyers for NVCOG that for some of the products we have. Thank you for attending, and please reach out with any inquiry. Thank you.
Think so.
Thank
Good
you.
job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very informative. Appreciate it.